What would we do if an earthquake happened right now? We would immediately go under our desks or our tables because we're in quarantine and ride the earthquake until it's safe to come out. National Geographic has mentioned that there is about 10,000 people that die annually because of earthquakes. Earthquakes happen all the time, but most of the time they're small to be noticed. So we all live in California and we're always expecting the big one to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And when it does happen, it can be really catastrophic. California has been asleep of the dangers of earthquakes, and when it comes, it'll be too late to be awake. So, I want to tell you more about earthquakes and inform you of the recommendations experts have given and made. And according to California Department of Conservation, California generally gets two to three earthquakes large enough to make moderate damage to structures, and their magnitudes are about 5.5 or above. First, I'm going to talk about what are earthquakes and how they happen, and I'm going to talk about earthquakes that happen in San Francisco and what it means to be in Los Angeles. So, first I'm going to be talking about earthquakes, then San Francisco, and then we'll move on to Los Angeles. So let's do it. So, what are earthquakes exactly? So, we all know earthquake happens when plates shift, collide, or go inside each other, but there's a lot of plates in California. We have two plates specifically. One is the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate, which makes up what we know is the San Andreas Fault. And because both plates are a strike-slip fault, they both slide against each other, and when that happens, sometimes we get an earthquake. So the bigger the tension, the bigger the earthquake. So when the tension is too much and suddenly it slips through, boom, we get a big earthquake. So that's how an earthquake happens here in California. Earthquakes can cause tsunamis, but not all the time. But most of the time, they cause ground rupture, landslides, and liquefaction, which is when loose sediments with water and they lose strength, and so it becomes more watery, and anything could be swallowed up or sinked. So like cars or houses in general. And because of that, earthquakes have caused a lot of PTSD towards adolescents and children. And because they lose control of what's happening and they don't have any control, so it causes a lot of PTSD towards them. So that's what's mentioned in the article of psychological effects of earthquakes in children and prospects for brief behavioral treatment by Ebru and Murden. So what's the deal with that San Francisco? What's the cause of earthquakes in San Francisco? Like I said, it's a strike-slip fault, and because of that, the big San Francisco quake happened in 1906, and it had the magnitude of 7.8 and only lasted about like a minute or so. And it caused more than 3,000 deaths and caused a lot of damage and to many buildings, and resulting in fast rebuilding without precautions or reinforcements for future earthquakes. This resulted in the 1989 earthquake. Is a 6.9 earthquake, and it caused 63 deaths, but more than 3,000 people were injured, according to the California Department of Conservation. Because of the inadequate response and readiness to be safe, there are many regulations for having more drills, having more help on search and rescue, and more funding and building buildings back up again. So because of that, there's a lot of more implementations in adolescents and children. So that's why we always have the instinct of going under. So let's talk about Los Angeles. What's up with Los Angeles? So there was a recent earthquake that happened in Ridgecrest, and then that was a 7.1 magnitude, and it resulted in no fatalities, luckily, and it could be felt from 125 miles from the epicenter. Los Angeles have a lot of buildings, and they have a lot of skyscrapers. Because of that, Los Angeles has made more precautions in how buildings are made. According to an article by Lior Zipman, How Earthquake Buildings Are Designed, they mentioned that buildings are made with susceptible material to be sturdy and flexible. That's why when earthquake happens, skyscrapers tend to sway. So that's what you need to know about Los Angeles. So now that we're more aware of earthquakes, I've talked about earthquakes and what happened in San Francisco and what's up with Los Angeles. Since I talked about earthquakes and the effects it can have in people's livelihoods and their daily lives, I gave you background information about San Francisco and a little bit of information of Los Angeles and resulting in these precautions. So I want to remind you guys to not be afraid of knowing more things and help you in the long run. Bye bye.